The auditorium was buzzing with laughter, chatter, and the impatient shuffling of feet. It was another school talent showcase, one where the stars were usually the same: the cheerleaders, the football players with guitars, the confident kids who always seemed to be in the spotlight. No one really noticed the thin girl in the back corner, clutching a folded piece of paper with trembling hands. Her name was Emily Carter, 15 years old, and most of the crowd barely knew she existed. Emily wasn't the type who drew attention. She wore hand-me-down clothes a size too big, shoes that squeaked with every step, and glasses that often slid down her nose. Teachers called her quiet, classmates called her awkward, and some didn't call her anything at all. Life at home wasn't much brighter. Her dad worked night shifts, her mom juggled 2 jobs, and Emily spent most evenings alone with her notebook, filling page after page with lyrics no one had ever read. That night, she wasn't supposed to perform. In fact, she hadn't even signed up. But when one of the acts canceled at the last minute, a teacher spotted her sitting silently in the audience. "Emily," the teacher asked gently, "didn't you mention you could sing?" Emily froze. Every instinct screamed to say no, to shrink further into her chair. But something inside, something small yet desperate, pushed her to whisper, "I'll try." The announcer barely pronounced her name before the crowd grew restless. Some whispered, "Who is she?" Others scrolled through their phones, assuming it would be another shaky, forgettable performance. Emily walked onto the stage as though she was walking into a storm. Her knees shook, her palms sweated, and her throat felt tight. For a moment, staring into the blinding lights, she thought about running off. Then she remembered her mother's words, "Emily, when you feel invisible, let your voice remind the world you're here." She closed her eyes, took a shaky breath, and began to sing. The first note was soft, fragile, like glass balancing on the edge of a table. But as the melody carried, her voice grew stronger, rich, pure, and aching with emotion. The lyrics told a story of loneliness, of nights spent wishing someone would listen, of hope flickering like a candle in the dark. The auditorium went silent. Phones slipped into laps, whispers faded into stillness. Every soul in that room felt something shift. By the second verse, Emily wasn't just singing, she was pouring out years of silence, heartbreak, and resilience. Her voice soared, cracked, then soared again, wrapping itself around the audience like a warm embrace. Teachers wiped their eyes. Students who had never noticed her before sat frozen, goosebumps running up their arms. And then, the unexpected happened. In the middle of her final chorus, a spotlight that had been flickering suddenly burst fully to life, shining directly on her. The glow made her look radiant, almost angelic, as if the universe itself was saying, "Here she is. See her." When the last note trembled into the air, there was no hesitation. The crowd erupted. People leapt to their feet, clapping, cheering, screaming her name. The same students who had ignored her in the hallways now shouted, "Encore! Encore!" Emily stood there stunned, tears spilling down her cheeks, because for the first time in 15 years, she wasn't invisible. She was unforgettable. But the moment that changed everything came not from the applause, but from a single act of kindness. As she stepped off stage, still shaking, the school's star quarterback, popular, confident, adored by everyone, walked straight toward her. He didn't know her well. He didn't have to. He simply placed a hand on her shoulder and said loudly enough for the crowd to hear, "Emily, you just reminded all of us what real talent looks like." That single gesture broke down a wall. Suddenly, kids who had walked past her for years without a glance were smiling, patting her back, asking if she'd sing again. Teachers talked about setting up a recording session. Her inbox filled with messages of support. Emily's world, once small and gray, burst into color. What no one knew that night was how close Emily had come to giving up, not on singing, but on believing she mattered. She had carried the weight of feeling forgotten for so long that she almost believed it was true. But with one chance, one song, and one simple moment of recognition, everything changed. Weeks later, Emily didn't just perform again, she led the school's spring concert, her name printed in bold on every flyer. People came not just to hear her sing, but to witness the girl who had reminded them all of something timeless, that talent, beauty, and worth aren't always wrapped in the loudest voices or the brightest spotlights. Sometimes, they are hidden, waiting quietly for the right moment to shine. And for Emily, that moment had finally come. Because the forgotten 15-year-old, she wasn't forgotten anymore. She had become a reminder to everyone, students, teachers, strangers, that no one is ever truly invisible. Sometimes, it just takes a little courage, and a little kindness, to make the world finally see